Welcome back, everybody, to the From the Bench podcast. As always, I'm your host, Eric, with my co-host, Trevor.
How's it going, guys?
And, obviously we've been talking a lot of NFL the last couple weeks, and it makes sense, right? Like, what else was going on? All we had was the NFL draft. It was the first, new sports thing in a
Build
month.
up to the draft, man. Build up to the draft. So we had to go all in on the NFL talk. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And we obviously love this. Is part of this podcast is going to be hockey, but it's also going to be football, right? So, and baseball and basketball and whatever else we can kind of come up with. Also, the CFL draft actually started like half an hour ago. So I'm sure that's doing good. We follow the CFL. We've actually been to the Grey Cup and everything else.
Trevor's been there twice.
Trevor's been there twice. We went to one in Winnipeg together, which was awesome.
That was the best one still, though. It was a lot more fun, yeah.
It was wild. I
also went to the one in Edmonton just recently.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's going on right now. We obviously aren't going to cover the CFL draft. It's harder. Prospects aren't, the prospects don't get the highlights probably that they should. Maybe there should be a podcast where we highlight them, and maybe next year we'll do something about them. Trevor,
maybe next year. No. Maybe next year. Maybe next year. I like that. Yeah. Maybe next year.
We'll see. So we're going to get back into some hockey talk. Actually, first though, what have you been up to lately, Trevor?
Well, Eric, when it's sunny out, I've been painting my deck and my front step, and it's quite a process, But I'm having lots of fun, Eric. Having lots of fun.
It's looking good too, people. Like it's
coming.
Brand new coat of white. Brand new coat of white. She's looking good. So
all I'll say is it is a process. But I will say this: I'd rather paint outside than paint inside your house. You know what I mean? No thanks.
Yeah.
Outside, I can, do my thing, but no. Inside the house, I'm just not good.
So yeah, let's hey, you gotta do, like I said, you get some time in this cold quarantine, isolating, then you can get that done. So
what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. A little bit of work.
Well, that's good.
There's not a whole lot going on. So, a little bit of work that I can, but something's better than nothing at the end of the day. So
exactly, man.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get into some NHL talk. Obviously, nothing new going on. Don't really have any update. They haven't said anything. I think the last thing I saw that they said, like with the NFL or NHL, that if they have to run this season late, they could start the next season later, like the 2020 season. They could start that even later in like November or December. But
could you imagine? Could you imagine though?
And essentially, I think they would get rid of the I think they said they'd get rid of the All-Star break. They'd shorten the Christmas break, and they'd probably get rid of for this year. They'd get rid of, because every team has a bye, which kind of extends it.
Yeah, the 5 week or 5 days.
So
right?
Yeah, so they'd get rid of that too to kind of still make it all work. That we could get a full 82 game season in for next year. So yeah, it's interesting. It's something different, obviously, but
that's got that definitely got injuries written all over it, boy. Doesn't it though? Because there's gonna be a shitload of hockey.
These guys are. It's just not like it used to be. Our guys used to back in the day.
This year there's a lot of injuries though. There really was, and not just.
That's just guess what? You're playing a contact sport. Yeah, but you're playing a contact sport. If you're going for an extra day, it doesn't matter. Like it's just. I know. I understand some stuff. It's some recovery, blah blah, and maybe you have to get guys to sit out, not battle through it. Maybe that's what it is. But to me, it's like, well, at the end of the day, you're playing hockey. Like, you're playing a couple games. Like, and obviously we're not NHL players, but like back when you're a kid,
clearly,
and you're playing an NHL, you're playing a tournament on the weekend. You're playing like 6 games on a weekend. Yeah. So like, these NHL teams are obviously they're way better than us, and there's way more time, and there's faster, and I understand, but enough. Like they're not playing every day. maybe back-to-backs once in a while, but that's about it. So.
They're going to be playing every other day. That's what it sounds like anyways.
Sounds good. More hockey. We're going to need something to make up for it. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it's been a decade almost since the 2010 NHL Draft. That was the Tyler versus Taylor. Who's going to go first overall? That's the draft that the Maple Leafs had traded their first and lost out on the chance.
True.
At number 2.
We got Kessel.
Just like to push that in a little bit.
It's all right. Kessel played great for us, man. He wasn't the problem.
Yeah, he did. Then it's so yeah, I said we had Tyler Seguin, we had Taylor Hall, and we just wanted to kind of highlight this draft. Like I said, it's a big one. There's a lot of names that you probably don't realize were even drafted in this draft. Some guys that had a rough go of it too over the years. And at the end of the day, some guys that there's some names here in the 5th and the 6th and the 7th round even that are pretty big names. One of the guys in the 7th round,
massive names,
plays for the team that Trevor's wearing a hat of right now, which is the blue and white, the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, going into it, Trevor, what do you remember about the Tyler versus Taylor? Like, who did you like coming out?
I remember them really.
It was the center versus winger, right? So
exactly, like they were pumping the tires of Taylor. Well, they were pumping the tires of both of them, but I hate to say it, but I'm a big believer in you always take the center. Goes back to Ovechkin and Evgeny Malkin.
Yeah,
and obviously, they went the way, but you can't go wrong with the OV. But I'm just saying, like, if I was gonna build a team, I want the center every day of the week. That's just the way. So, anyways, and I guess if we look at the longevity of these two guys' career right now, leading up to right now, I'd say Tyler Seguin has had the better career. Wouldn't you say? I know he's got the cup because of he was a rookie and they won with the Bruins that year, but he still probably had a better career overall, and he stayed on the ice.
Yeah, so he's played 741 games so far in his career versus Taylor Hall, who's played 627. Taylor Hall has now jumped around between the Edmonton Oilers, where he obviously played. They then shipped him out for Adam Larson for some reason. Not that Taylor Hall with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl wouldn't look good.
Stay-at-home defenseman, boy.
But they traded him straight up for a stay-at-home defenseman. I don't understand it. But anyways, they went over to New Jersey, and then New Jersey traded him over to Phoenix this past year because apparently things weren't going good. That's, after 2 years ago, he won the Hart Trophy for the, most valuable player in the league. So,
and he was unreal that year. Unreal.
He was. It was between him and Nathan McKinnon kind of at the end of it, and he ended up taking that title. So in 600, so between the two, like I said, Tyler has 741 games. He went second overall. Taylor Hall went first overall to the Edmonton Oilers. Tyler Seguin has 279 goals, where Taylor Hall has 218, and then the assists are pretty much the same, 345 to 356. Tyler gets the split there, and the points are actually a little closer than you would think, but it's 635 to 563. So it's actually pretty good. Like I said, when Tyler Seguin's, when Taylor's been on the ice, he's obviously put up good numbers, and same with Tyler Seguin, right? Like it's pretty good. Like I said, just some injury issues would kind of make the difference, and then obviously Taylor Hall's kind of got that rap for, not a good teammate, which I think is always kind of stupid.
I think that's false.
Yeah, I think
hearsay bullshit.
Matt Duchene gets the same thing, and I think that's not really warranted. I think a lot of the guys seem to enjoy him. So, but as I said, it is what it is. So number 3, so you had Edmonton going first overall, Boston second overall to grab Tyler Seguin, and then the Florida Panthers, they grab Eric Gudbranson, the defenseman,
who's still in the NHL, still getting it done.
In the NHL. When you look at those other two, though, it's a drop off, and like he was never meant to play. He was never meant to play that. he's not that offensive defenseman, right? Like he's not
exactly
Brent Burns or an Eric Carlson or even a Drew Doughty or any of these guys that put up points. He's a sit back, play at home defenseman,
big body, throws
big
his
body.
weight around, kills penalties, grinds on you.
Does a little bit of everything for you, right?
I think they were kind of hoping he was going to be like gets around all right. Like I think they were hoping he was like a pronger, but he just never developed the offense.
And this, to be honest, this is kind of when
not crazy
the league started switching, right? Like
exactly,
you really started seeing around this time that's when it became smaller players, and it feels like a lot of the rules kind of changed, around that to kind of less
just
clutching,
shortly,
less grabbing, just showing off that skill player, which is I know some people don't like it. They want to see the hard hitting, bring back hockey the way it was before. But to be honest, I think, the game's never been more exciting, other than some diving penalties and some dives and stuff, which neither one of us can stand.
Exactly.
Next, we'll kind of just go through the rest of them for the top 10. So we had Ryan Johansson, went to Columbus, 4th overall. Worked out pretty good until they end up, eventually trading him to Nashville.
Still worked out good for them, though.
Yep. The Islanders went with Nito Niederreiter, which I forgot that he was an Islander because I think we kind of remember him as a Minnesota Wild for the most part. And I think he get traded to Carolina.
He had a cup of coffee. Yeah, he's in Carolina now. He had a cup of coffee there really after they drafted him and they traded him right away.
I don't remember. I don't really remember him.
Clutterbuck. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Clutterbuck. Are you kidding me?
What a trade. Tampa then grabs Brett Connolly, which I think Brett's been a fine NHL player, but definitely not what you expect out of 6th overall.
He took
Carolina
a little
grabbed Jeff Skinner, who's kind of just been a good NHL player. I think he's got the most games or close to the most games. I think behind Tyler Seguin, he's got the most games played in the NHL, so you can't complain about that. Obviously, a guy that's played, hasn't missed a whole lot of time. Alexander Burmistrov went to the then
Thrashers.
Thrashers. Wow, I was really having a hard time with that one.
I'm
like picturing the logo, everything, couldn't bring it up. Number 9, Minnesota grabbed Mikael Granlund, who's obviously
Granlund, what a beauty
player. And then the Rangers grabbed Dylan McElroy, defenseman from the Moose Jaw Warriors, who you probably don't know if you're.
Did he ever play a game, man? I don't even remember.
So he's played, and that's one of the things I'm going to get into. He's only played 66 games. He put up 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points. In 66 games.
What a plot!
Apparently he's suited up in this year. It says last season on HockeyDB. It says his last season was 2019-2020. So he played somewheres this year. I'm gonna check real quick where he played. He played for the Detroit Red Wings this year. He played in 16 games, 0 points.
What a beauty!
He was a -4, which actually probably isn't that bad overall.
That's actually really good. That's really good.
23 penalty minutes. He played 7 games last year
7 games
for them. Before that, he hadn't played in the NHL. He played 5 games in 2016, 2017. Or 6 games, sorry, between the Rangers and the Panthers. He's just not. The last
he played left bench. That's what he played.
Yeah, so
left
he's had
bench.
now with this season. In the last 4 seasons, he's played in the NHL, or the last 3 seasons he played in the NHL. He's had 1 point. He had a breakout year in 2015, 2016. He had in 34 games, he had 2 goals and 2 assists for the Rangers. Good job. So like I said, obviously Eric Branson, he's kind of the start, which like I said hasn't been a bad player, but just maybe not and maybe he was what they wanted, to be honest. That hard hitting, stay at home defenseman, push guys around in front of the net, kind of what you want. But it was kind of, there was some defensemen that went, in the first round that had a rough go of it. Let's just say
that happens every draft.
And Dylan McElroy is one, and then one that we watched when we were a little bit younger, a little less gray, was Brandon Gormley.
He was a beauty.
Coyotes at the time, not the Arizona Coyotes, Phoenix Coyotes.
Phoenix.
And he is not. So he actually has a worse time than McElwright, who, if anyone doesn't know, Brandon Gormley played for the Moncton Wildcats in the Q. So Trevor and I, like I said, we're from Moncton, so we get to watch him. He played in a grand total of 58 games, has 2 goals, 3 assists.
Yeah, and he was an offensive prospect too. Yeah, like he was an offensive defenseman, but an all-around defenseman. I don't know what happened there. It was a shame. He skated well. He was a big body. He was a great grinder out there. You know, he had a little bit of spit to it, polish to his game, but he also had a little bit of a grind to it. I'm not quite sure what happened there. It's too bad because he had all kinds of potential. So, like we said, not everybody pans out just because you're a first-round draft pick. Doesn't mean diddly. So
no, like I said, it was just odd. Like I said, we kind of watched him, and it was kind of one of those things. You know, we've had some NHLers come from the Wildcats. You know, that have made pretty good careers. In the old Coliseum in Moncton, they actually had a great big wall that kind of had all the guys, kind of like what I have behind me, but it was a bunch of like showed every team, every player that used to play for the Wildcats and where they got drafted to and where they kind of made their NHL debut and stuff. And there was a lot of guys, right? So you had, Keith Yandel, you had Brad Marchand, you had right now Crawford. You get Connor Garland, you get Corey Crawford, you get Ivan Barbashev. So, there's some good players that have come out of Moncton. Gormley, I think, was the highest drafted one out of all of them.
Bernier was in the first round, but
Steve Bernier. Yeah. Even Pelche this 2 years ago or last year, he got drafted.
He was in the first, yeah. Good call.
Yeah. So there's, like I said, been some good guys. I said it's a shame. Montreal also grabbed Jared Tenorti, who's also only played 81 games in essentially 10 years. Has a 1 goal, 10 assists. So
he played a lot this year, didn't he, for Nashville?
I think so.
That's where he's at now. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. So he's
playing.
I guarantee you he remembers his first goal because it's his only one. And actually it came this year. So there you go.
Nice.
After all these years, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 6th NHL season. And he put up a goal. Got a goal and 4 assists with Nashville this year. Had a cup of coffee with Arizona at one point.
Man,
but,
who got a steal in the first round late is Washington getting Kuznetsov. Sorry. Wow. Yeah. Like, can you imagine? And he's really now he's taken over as the number 1 center. Like, they don't win that Stanley Cup without him. He was amazing in that run. Man, he's fun to watch. He's electric.
And he's got that thing. I know some guys don't like it.
I can't stand his celebration. Is that where you're going? The bird?
And our boy.
I'm not going to lie to you. When they won the Stanley Cup, it kind of wore on me. When he's doing the celebration, I'm giving a silent little fist bump. I'm like, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm thinking to myself, come on, man. But seriously, But
yeah, man, it obviously it's wore off on the Russian,
overall in the first.
Yeah, it wore off on the Russian players because we even see it in Moncton. We get to see it with Alexander Ivanov, who's a draft prospect of the Minnesota Wild. And
what a steal that was too.
And that's his move. That's when he scores a goal now. He does the same thing. He likes flapping the wings, just the same as Kuznetsov. So like you said,
he also likes flapping the gums, boy. He likes the draft talk.
That kid is amazing. He's so talented. But at any time, as likely as he is to put the puck in the back of the net or get an assist, he's also just as likely to slash your head off, which is always good.
Beat the referee, guaranteed. Beats the ref. God. Every time. The ref.
And
just a beauty.
Get to watch, like I said, that the other first round pick we had, which is Pelche. He kind of just every time he saw him, he just like would go over and grab him because he's like, nope, get off the ice, like stop. So it's kind of funny, but like I said, it just shows how good of a player, and he's going to be a player for these young guys over in in Russia. As much as Ovechkin's obviously, he's led the way and
doing his thing.
Only the greatest goal scorer of our generation, right?
Maybe of all time, man. Just the way the goalies play nowadays, like that's a good debate right there. The game's fast.
It's one of those things.
You've got a back check now. You know what I mean? So like, it's a lot tighter. And he's just
not
getting
one of those.
It done.
And Ovechkin, the nice thing with Ovechkin is like he's not even just a finesse player. Like that guy will level you. Like
remember when he first come in the league, he just run you over. Just great train.
Awesome. So yeah, like I said, that was a steal. Other notable guys in that first round. They said it wasn't all bad for defensemen. You had Cam Fowler went to Anaheim, still there.
That was a sick pick, yeah.
Still an absolute beaut. St. Louis took Vladimir Tarasenko in that round. That's awesome.
And that wasn't even their first pick. They took Jared.
Jaden Swartz.
Yeah, like
they got
before.
Jaden Swartz.
Yeah. What a
2 picks before.
Wicked.
My Colorado Avalanche took Joey Hishon. Crickets? No? Okay. It's because you probably don't know.
It was bad.
Joey Hishon only played in 13 NHL games. He is the second lowest for all first-round draft picks that year. He put up in 13 games, put up 1 goal, 1 assist. Good job. Hey, you know what? More NHL games than I played in, so I can't say nothing.
Fact.
Very true. Nick Bukes had one in that draft. You got Bo Bennett, Kevin Hayes, the guy that just got paid 7 years, $7 million apiece. So he signed for $49 million, taking it to the bank. So we had Charlie Coyle was in that first round, and Brock Nelson. So some really good NHL players in that draft. Guys you would, you're like, wow, really? That like all those guys came in that
Jack
first round?
Campbell.
So
shout out to my boy, backup goalie.
That's where I was going to go. So I think this is kind of where you started seeing goalies not go as high, and maybe it was
obviously
a couple years later.
I think they took one really high.
I think Vasilevsky, he was a first round pick for Tampa, but that was a couple years later.
Late first, yeah.
But Arizona, by the way, had a really hard time in this first round. Not only did they take Brandon Gormley, 13th overall, they also took Mark Byzantine. Pretty sure he played in the World Juniors for the Niagara Ice Dogs of the O. Pretty sure he was a starter that year. He's played in 1 total NHL game. So Arizona hit a big fat 0 essentially on 2 first-round picks. So you lose that, like I said, lose out on Brandon Gormley, who unfortunately didn't turn out to what they wanted, and also the goalie prospect that they thought was going to be the next guy. And and maybe where it's 2 guys in a row, maybe you think, is it the scouts? But a lot of these guys, like, yeah, maybe he's not. Maybe you wouldn't take Brandon Gormley 13th overall. But he was gonna be, you would have expected that guy to be an NHL player.
He fell in that draft, if I remember correctly. He was supposed to go like top 5. He fell down to them.
He's still gonna be a first round draft pick, right? So obviously not all these scouts are wrong. Some the big brains had these guys going early. It's not a random draft pick, but it is what it is. Like I said, it's unfortunate.
And we will say though, Arizona has had trouble developing the guys. Like I said before about Montreal, same thing in Arizona.
And you've kind of seen lately they kind of finally started to look like they're coming around. They got, like you said, Connor Garland, who went in the 5th round to them from us. He's an undersized guy, and somehow his game was never really scoring in Moncton in the queue, but had a hard time in the AHL, and then now he's in the NHL, and he's just lighting the lamp any way he can.
He dished a lot. He was a finesse player, man. He got a lot of points for us.
Yeah, well, he led the queue in scoring for 2 straight years.
He was awesome, electric to watch.
Just amazing. But yeah, so you had 2 goalies go in the first round of that draft. You had Jack Campbell, who has now played in a total of 64 NHL games. Not bad, but for the 11th overall pick, you'd expect him to be a little more. A career backup
but kudos to him. He's turned it around. He's playing good hockey now, and he's in the league still. So way to get it done, Campbell. I know you're not where you want to be, but at least you're doing something.
And obviously, Dallas had high hopes for him, and he just never turned into what they wanted. Goes over to the LA Kings. Backs up quick.
I don't even think he played a game for Dallas. Maybe one.
That's
weird.
He had a rough go of it. The Dallas Stars, he played in 1 game. There you go.
There you go. So I knew
in one game, he let up 6 goals. Had an .872 save percentage in that game. Faced 41 shots. Yikes. Was in the AHL for a bunch of years. LA Kings, he played a total of, doing math quick, 57 games for them. And now he's played over 4 seasons. Now he's played in 6 games for the Leafs. So, like I said, obviously big guy. Lots of hype for him, and you hope that they could obviously turn him around. Other big names in that draft included in the second round. You had Justin Falk, the defenseman. Just played amazing for
top
how long
4
for
defenseman.
Carolina. Yeah,
he's top 4 defenseman, and they got Skinner in the first round. So talk about a good haul there. You got 2 guys that contributed big time. Love it.
Yeah,
like they did something right there.
Yeah, like I said, that's kind of the opposite of what Arizona had, right? And it kind of shows, and it pays off over years. And obviously, Carolina is just finally kind of coming into their own. But it's and at this point now, they traded Falk over to St. Louis this past year.
They're both gone, bro.
I know.
One's St. Louis and the other one's in Buffalo. Signed that big ticket.
Big ticket,
boy. Wasn't it 7?
I think so.
I don't know. I think so too.
Like nobody real quick. I didn't see any big names. We had another Moncton Wildcat go in that draft. Man, this was a terrible draft for Moncton Wildcats. Kirill Kabanov, who I don't know if you remember him. He was a winger. He's from Russia. He's played in 0 NHL games. He went in the 3rd round.
No, I don't remember him.
I'm pretty sure he was late for like training camp or something. Slept in for like the Islanders. Not a good sign. He was kind of like a hothead here. Like all kinds of skill, but you could kind of tell like he thought he was better than like everybody else. Man, not a good showing for the Wildcats in that draft. Nobody else really.
So you're already out of the second. Are you already out of the second round?
This is the 3rd round. Yeah. Like I said, Radko.
Well, Tyler Foley was in the. He was in the second. Just gonna shout out to Tyler Foley.
Yeah, he's okay.
The Canuck, but the former King.
It's you also got like in the 3rd round you had
you didn't mention Jason Zucker either. Come on, bro. You're killing me. Come on.
Listen.
You're killing me.
There's a couple
Zucker,
guys.
I'm telling you. So good job, Minnesota. Both those guys are gone now.
We can also talk about Johan Larsson if you want.
How about the former Maple Leaf, Justin Hall? Come on, buddy. Come on.
Oh my God.
You signed that extension? What a beauty.
You had Radko Gudas going to Tampa back in the day. I don't remember that. In the 3rd.
I don't remember it either, but he's a good player.
Joachim Nordstrom, he's kind of bounced around. I think he's with Boston now, or he was at one point. 4th round, there wasn't really anybody either. You got Jonas Donskoy, which he's playing good.
What about Brandon Rust? We got to give him a shout out because he's having a hell of a year for Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Or Brian? Is it Brian Rust? It's Brian Rust.
Brian Rust.
Yeah. Anyway, so shout out to him. Yeah. That's 3rd round. That's a great pick by Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, and you have other guys like in that 4th round. You got I'm just looking through it quick. Jonas Donskoy, like I said, playing great for the Avalanche this year before everything.
I got him highlighted, and he was sick in San Jose too. So
also Philip Grubauer, the goalie that's playing for Colorado now. They're number 1. He was drafted by Washington in that draft. So at least there's one goalie that kind of came in. Also, by the way, Colorado took Sami Itikallio.
You're on your own here, Haas.
He only played in 2 NHL games. Not a good time for the Avalanche in this draft either. This is like the draft.
I can't even chirp you, bro. I was looking at the Maple Leaf picks. None of them. The only one that turned out was Tyler Seguin, who didn't actually end up being a lead. So I'm telling you, bro, not good for us. I can't say shit to you.
I think it was like the 20.
Come
I
on.
feel like it was like the 2013 draft or the 20. It was the first year we were out west together, and we watched the draft in camp up in Fox Creek. If anybody on the podcast knows where Fox Vegas, beautiful diamond camp up there.
You mean the shithole of Canada? Fox Creek.
Yeah, literally. That camp actually wasn't bad though. I didn't mind that camp. You could put your sub order in for every morning. Order your sub, get a.
They had ice cream sandwiches, and they also had ice cream. Come on.
Me and Trevor somehow sat in this camp for 2 weeks, rained out while everybody else was getting sent home. Brand new guys, no idea how it worked, but
they wouldn't let us leave. It was bullshit. We were on a priority job. Priority.
But in that draft, not this draft that we're talking about, but that draft, I remember sitting there and the Colorado, I was like, Ivan Barbashev for the Wildcats is there. He's the best 2-way forward. Like, come on, Avalanche, take him. Like, this is gonna be awesome. He's my favorite Wildcat. And then no, they take Connor Bleakley, who's also never played a game in the NHL. We let him go after his, let his entry level time expire. Got drafted again in like the 6th round by St. Louis, I think. Never came into everything. And I think we didn't have a single guy from that draft that worked out for us. So that's a big yikes guy.
That's a big no guy.
Yeah, there's some drafts out there and you look back and you're like, wow, we really didn't get anybody from that one. That's not good.
Oh no, we suck again.
Yeah. Well, and then you have the opposite, right? Like the draft where Matt Duchene was taken 3rd overall. So
O'Reilly.
Hedman.
What up?
So we grabbed Duchene in the
draft.
1st, O'Reilly in the 2nd, Tyson Barrie in the 3rd, Calvin Pickard in the 4th. There you go. That's a hell of a draft. That one you want to give them. You want to give them a round of applause for that one. So
this is one of my favorite rounds. Who do you got in this round?
The 5th. Okay, yeah. So the 5th round, you had some pretty noticeable guys. One plays for the team that has the toilet seat on the front of the jersey, which is the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah. Brendan Gallagher, the little shit disturber.
5th round, 147th overall. Wow.
Yep. So he's played in 547 games. He's put up 173 goals, 161 assists for 334 points, and 312 penalty minutes because he is an agitator.
He is a bulldog. You love to have him on your team. Eric, who was their 1st round pick again? Jared Tenorti?
Yeah.
Well, at least Montreal got it right in the 5th round, ladies and gentlemen. But let's just write this down. Like what in the hell? Like, seriously. But anyways, that's the time, like Eric said, and we had mentioned before earlier, that the NHL was just starting to switch. And Jared Tenorti was a big, tall, bruising defenseman. And that was when it just started to switch around again. Started to go to puck-moving guys. So I think they got caught up in that. But what a steal, Brendan Gallagher. 5th round, 147th overall. Could I chime in and mention a couple other guys
here? Keep on going.
All right, so my boy, Zach Hyman, shout out Hyman. Zach Hyman was drafted in this round, 123rd overall. Love him to death. You're my boy, Hyman. You show those other guys how to work. I also want to give a shout out to another guy I love, Michael Ferland, who's really hasn't played much this year for the Canucks. He's had concussion problems. So they shut him down, thank God, because he had back-to-back concussions. And then Peter Mrazek, we'll give a shout out to him. He's actually been one of the better goalies, like especially in this draft. Not the best, but who else we talk about? Him and Campbell. So
yeah, I don't. Well, you had Grubauer in that draft.
Yes, Grubauer too. Sorry, yeah, you're right.
So, he's you got a couple guys that kind of worked out. Like I said, obviously Peter Mrazek. Like I never understood like some guys like maybe he's just like not a great guy in the locker room, but like Detroit couldn't seem like they were couldn't get rid of him any quicker, and I was like, what are you doing?
And he was really young still. Yeah.
He was good. I'm pretty sure he played like amazing in the World Juniors, and I'm pretty sure that's the first place where we kind of get to see him. But
his first year too in Detroit, he was pretty good. But I don't know. Maybe he just couldn't or handle the workload. I know they tried to give it to him a bunch of times, but that team at that point wasn't that good anymore anyway.
No, they were on the downside finally, right? Big after 20-some years.
And they had all those bad contracts. So
you missed one guy, though.
Who'd I miss?
You missed probably going to be the highest rate. If you went right now and you listed all the defensemen on this, you might have this guy at the top. And yes, I understand you have, guys like Cam Fowler on this list, and you'd have guys like Justin Falk, but you get John Klingberg that was taken by Dallas in the 5th round here. So, John Klingberg, big. He's an ugly mofo.
Yeah, I see him right there, yeah.
But, 425 games played, 58 goals, 23 assists for 291 points. So 291 points in 425 games as a defenseman. that you're putting up some points. You know, and obviously doesn't rough it up too much, 156 penalty minutes, but he's kind of became, you know, that the guy there in Dallas. You know, that the quarterback on the power play. You know, he's only really got 6 NHL seasons, and you know the lowest amount of points he's put up before this shortened year already was 40 points. So if you can get 40 points, he's got 40, 58, 49, 67, 45 last year in kind of a season where he kind of got hurt a little bit, and then 32 so far in 58 games this year. So
he's consistently been good.
Yeah, so really? I don't know what happened this year. He's kind of struggled a little bit on the plus minus, which that's not everything. But he's actually, for the first time in his career, he's actually he's a minus 10. But, you know, big 6'3", 190 pound, still only, you know, right shooting defenseman out of Sweden. So
which are hard to find.
Yeah, like he's just, you know, everyone loves a right-hand defenseman. You know, if I had played defense instead of goalie, I probably would have made the NHL with that big right shot bomb I got. I don't got a pump. So moving on into the 6th round. I don't know if you noticed any guy that stuck out here, but there's a
one of my faves. You knew that.
So
it's one of my faves. You want to mention him first?
Well, are you going? Is it Alex Friesen?
No, that's not who I'm talking about.
He's played one game. So there's in the 6th round. This kind of shows you how much of a crapshoot it gets when you get later in the rounds. In the 6th round, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that have played in the NHL. 2 of them played in 1 game and then 8 games. A couple of the other guys, you know, under 200 games. 1 264, 1 422. The guy with the most games in the NHL in the 6th round. He was drafted by the best team in Ontario, the Ottawa Senators.
They're horrible.
It's Mark Stone.
The worst owner ever.
He is. So, little backstory.
Eugene, you're an idiot. Get over it.
I hate Melnick. So, a little backstory. I actually have family that lives in Ottawa. So, back in the day, I think it was 2003, Ottawa was in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're playing against the Devils. I go up to see some family with my grandmother and my great-grandmother, and you know, just go up to see some family I haven't seen in a long time, and I got to go to the game. So Ottawa's always kind of been like that girlfriend team of mine. You know, the Colorado Avalanche are my favorite team.
That's horrible. Kind of how is that your girlfriend team, bro? That's not even good. Damn.
Hey, they're a team I can watch on the East Coast because Colorado, whenever I watch the games, they start at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I want to shoot myself most times because I'm like, I'm going to stay up to all this.
Who are you?
I am a Nighthawk, but it still sucks. You know, you're up to like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning if they're playing like a Pacific team, you know, watching these games. So Ottawa kind of has always given me that, and they're a Canadian team. I get to root for them.
I watch Ottawa lots too. I'm just jazzing people because I can. Ottawa's, like Eric said, always had all kinds of crazy talent. They used to be really, really good. At one point, they had Chara and Redden. Rain Redden, when he used to be dynamite back there. And the Battle of Ontario used to mean something because they're both really good teams. But it worked out good for one team, this one right here on the in the playoffs. Okay. But Marian Hossa, they drafted Marian Hossa. They drafted a lot of good players. Martin Havlat, remember Havlat? Oh man, that was when he was good too. He just after Ottawa, he couldn't stay healthy, but man, he was electric. They had some crazy players.
They had some really good, really
good games.
They
had some stacked teams, man. They had some stacked teams. Remember Patrick Lalime, their goalie? Oh my goodness, Lalime couldn't stop the beach ball in the playoffs.
he was so good. I'm trying to see.
It's good to be talking hockey, Murray. It's good to be talking hockey.
It's always good to come back. I'm trying to remember.
So Mark Stone, 178th overall in the 6th round, like Eric was saying. I kind of want to mention while Eric's pondering over there. Jasper, it's Fast, eh?
Is that how I say that? I think it's Jesper Fast.
Jesper, yes. Yeah, I say Jasper. I'm totally, you know how it is, people. But for the Rangers, you know, he's more of a 4th line, 3rd line guy, but he's a good player and he's really fast. He contributes a lot for the Rangers.
And he's played in all kinds of games. Like that guy's played Jesper Fast has played in, I think like 422 games. You don't even think about it.
He
But
was on
yeah,
those that team that ran up against or that went to the Cup final, right? I'm positive he was.
I think so.
Yeah, they were loaded then too.
I said 422 games. That's nothing to sniff at, right? Especially if you can grab that guy in the sixth round.
Those were my two faves in the 6th round right there. Really,
well, it's
really only two we're talking about.
I say you can talk with Dalton Prout, if you want, 264.
And Brandon O'Donnell was he a defenseman or was he? No, he's a center. So it's not the one I'm thinking of.
No, you're thinking there's Brandon Davidson was taken in that one. He's got 174 games. Most people probably know him from the Edmonton Oilers, who he's actually drafted by. So he kind of stuck it out through their system. And in the 7th round, you had two guys, or two guys that played more than 5 games. The second one was Zach Trotman. He was the last pick in the draft, 210 overall to the Boston Bruins. He played in 91 games, has 3 goals, 10 assists for 13 points. Apparently played this year. I'm going to pull it up real quick. He played for the Penguins this year. He played in 8 games, putting up 0 points. Played in 13 games the year before, putting up 1 assist. So hasn't really, obviously
6'7" guy then. 6'7" guy.
Yeah, he's just a guy you kind of pull in. You pull in if somebody else gets hurt, kind of emergency basis. But there's one guy off this list, and he's a goaltender.
And he's a beauty.
I kind of referenced him earlier. He's actually got, out of all these guys, he's got the second most points out of all the guys in the 7th round because he's got 8 assists. He's played in 369 games. Ladies and gentlemen, for the Carolina Hurricanes, I didn't remember them picking him. Frederik Andersen.
That's kind of cool about doing this, though. So just to recap, you guys, so Carolina got Jeff Skinner with the first round pick. They get Justin Falk with their second. And in the 7th round, they get Frederik Andersen. Oh, could you imagine, Eric, if me and you were GMs? We're looking like geniuses, bro. Like, we're just
give
ourselves a pat on the back. That's just great. But I do want to mention before we go into that. So Florida had 3 first-round draft picks. So the Eric Branson, Nick Bustad, Eric said, Quentin Howden. Quentin Howden kind of had a cup of coffee in the NHL. He played 1 or 2 years. He was kind of a depth guy. He never really worked out. I really liked him.
He's got 97 games played.
So he did play more than a little longer than a cup of coffee. They also got Alex Petrovic. Did I say that right, Eric? No?
Yeah.
Yes? In the same draft in the 2nd round. You said this one already. Jonas Dirks? How do you say that, the Colorado guy? Yeah. Donskoy. And they also got Zach Hyman in the 5th round. So they got 6 guys in this draft. Florida Panthers played in the NHL and more than just a couple of games. And most of them are still in the NHL except Quentin Howden right now. Which is, if you think about this, Eric, mind-boggling. Like, none of them are great, amazing guys, but they're all big contributors, pretty good contributors. So, what a draft by Florida.
Yeah, Howden's over playing. Howden's last season in the NHL, he played with the Winnipeg Jets. So he played a lot in the AHL. He played 58 games with the Manitoba Moose, probably maybe the best logo in all of the AHL. Then he played 5 games for the Jets, but wasn't really making a big difference. Wasn't getting that ice time. So he's actually over in Russia. He's playing over in the KHL. Played for Minsk Dynamo for a couple of years, putting up some decent points as a defenseman. Went over to the Nizhny Novgorod Torpedoes. Say that 10 times fast. And then he got traded over to the Podolsk Vityaz. He's also put up a couple of points. So, like I said, essentially the guy, that's Quentin Howden. Played for the, played in the World Juniors, everything else. Put up some good numbers, but just wasn't ever able to get there. He actually played for the Olympics when the NHL wouldn't go in 2018. He was on the Olympic team. So
Howden did?
Yep, I just seen that.
That's awesome.
So I didn't I didn't realize it. Just look it up here, like the tournament thing or whatever. He played in 3 games in the Olympics. So put up 1 assist.
And then what else? Other ones that stuck out to me. We and Eric already mentioned this, but like I said, Minnesota got what did I say?
Ryder?
Michael Granlund in the first,
Granlund.
and they got Jason Zucker in the second. Then we already mentioned Washington got Philip Grubauer in the 4th or 5th. I think it was the 4th.
Yeah.
And they got I'm trying to think heck's his name.
Kuznetsov.
Kuznetsov, which, oh man. So, and then other notables we already talked about. I don't really want to mention any of them because I think we already talked about them all. But Brendan, you got to mention Brendan Gallagher, Michael Furlan. Just some of these guys come to mind. Mark Stone in the 6th round. Brendan Gallagher, like, oh, are you kidding me? And a bunch of these guys in the 1st round, like me and Eric mentioned, had a cup of coffee. Some of them didn't even get a sniff. So, you gotta have a good front office and all that, but you gotta have a little bit of luck with it too. Like, let's be honest. Like, when I was growing up, me and Eric were growing up in the '90s, early '90s and stuff. Detroit and Colorado, like, their drafting was unreal. And then there was a lot more trades too. But man, they got it done with their drafting as well. Like, so nowadays in the new NHL, really, you can only do so many things trading wise. Because the salary cap. But man, it's all about drafting now, and it's unreal.
And it's hard, right? You end up becoming, because the rookies now, they're just they get done their rookie contract and they want these huge contracts. Like, look at all the guys in the Leafs. You got Marner and Matthews and Riley's. You got all these guys. Marner and Matthews didn't got out of their first contract, and usually you saw those guys make 5, 6, maybe $7 million.
And that's if they're a premium player.
And they're doing good. You'd see that. And I understand the league's change, but then Connor McDavid, and people can say whatever they want about Taves and Kane. Those guys won a Stanley Cup before they got paid, right?
Same. And I don't care what anybody says too. They're still getting it done. The two of them. They need help. There's a team that hasn't been drafting well. Like, they dealt all those guys away, and they're struggling. They're struggling to hit on their draft picks, and that's the problem. Like, people can point the fingers at them all like at Jonathan Toews. His numbers aren't great. Well, he needs help, and they can't play the two of them together all the time. Yeah, that would inflate his numbers some. You know what I mean? But in the NHL, you need depth. You can't.
And that's
win
one of the things. So they had such a good run at it, right? With the Blackhawks. You got to pay these guys, right? You're paying Brent Seabrook a ton of money, and he's obviously lost a step. And I love Brent Seabrook, but it's true.
So do I.
You got Duncan Keith over there. You got to pay him big money, and you've traded guys out to kind of keep that those people together.
Well, Duncan's getting that 5 or 6 a year, but he signed like one of those, what was it, like 10 or 12-year deals kind of thing, I think.
Yeah, he was.
So you just got him for long term.
And at the time, that was a big contract back when that was when they took him, right, when they paid him. Obviously Patty Kane and Jonathan Toews, they get the whatever it is, 10.5 or whatever it is. But it's hard to carry two guys with that big of a cap number, right? You look at Pittsburgh, Crosby, and everyone says it's because he's OCD, and he's obviously a guy that's a little bit stereotypical, but he's got his 8.7, 8.7, 8.7, 8.7, 8.7, bunch of 8.7s in a row. So he, that's what he signs his contract for. Malkin signs for a little bit more, but he's still not. He makes more. I think he's 9.5 or something like that. And that was kind of during that era of the big, the long 8-year.
They all took a little less.
Yeah, a little less, right? But it's hard, right? When you're winning, guys want every guy, because now every guy looks good because you just went on a cup run, and you probably brought something. If you were on the team and you won the cup, you probably didn't have too many slouches, so all those guys want to get paid.
And you get excited too. You bring in a Stanley Cup winner, like a guy who knows what it took to get there, right? But that contribute, that helps too, right? Like we've talked about this before. That helps, look at Toronto. Toronto's brought in a couple LA.
LA
struggling Kings. Here. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Murray.
Gotcha.
But anyways, and I don't know how many times Muzzin had to say it in the last month of the year before they stopped play, but he's telling the boys they better start showing up. They're not being inconsistent, no heart, not working hard enough, not working. Like, nobody wants to work for the puck. Well, boys, nobody's going to give you anything here in the NHL. So I thought that was awesome. I don't know how many times I said it on this podcast, probably too many, but, it's important. He knows what it takes. He won a cup, So.
And that's part of it, right? You want these guys that know what it's like to win. And I think that gets overstated sometimes. I think, yes, you want to see guys win, but, there's lots of teams that win that don't have very
not one
much
guy.
for,
Yeah,
not one guy. It's the
yeah.
same as like all trade deadline. Do you make the big splash, and they go through all the years of all the teams that have made big splashes at the deadline, and it doesn't work out, right? And I understand you're trying to improve your chances. And I think on the Spit and Chicklets podcast, they had Nathan McKinnon on, and they said, like, this past year, when St. Louis went on the run, did you guys think you had a chance? And he goes, yeah, he goes, we actually kind of did think that it was anybody's year. St. Louis, probably wasn't the best team. They played really good and they won the Stanley Cup, but they came together as a team. The best team in the league last year was the Lightning. They were so good, and they got bounced in the first round by Columbus, right? So
in 4 games, I love it.
Yeah, and there's
Get
one there.
Tortorella, that boy Torts.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, right? You just see these guys, and it's like there's so much to it. But Nathan McKinnon kind of said, a lot of times you think like, you want to think that anybody can win the cup, but then you look back and Chicago, LA, and Pittsburgh are the only teams that win. That end up winning it, right? And it's true. You think back, and there are kind of generation of really being able to be big hockey fans, since high school in the last like 15 years, and Pittsburgh's got 3 cups, Chicago's got 3 cups, LA's got 2 or 3 cups. So, half of LA's got 2. So, half of these, Boston's got, 1.
And I love when LA wins the first one. They're the 8th seed. They couldn't win shit. They just got into the dance kind of, bullshit, and they just make the run, and it was epic. That was a hell of a cup run, that one too. That was
but it's you gotta. Everyone's got different ideas of how you build a team. Do you find the guys that didn't produce? Like, I think that was one of the best things I saw from Colorado this year, is that we got a lot of guys that came in on slow contracts. Alexander Mistrov, Valery Nikushkin, Giannis Donskoy. We paid
a lot of guys you signed worked out well.
Yeah, they all kind of all these guys kind of worked out well for us, and they're producing, right? Obviously, we still have Nathan McKinnon, and you get Gabe Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen, and Kel McCarr, and you get all these guys.
Helps a little bit, yeah.
When you have Nathan McKinnon on your team, that's not bad. That's decent. I'll take Nate any day of the week over a lot of guys. So, like I said, it's good to talk hockey. Like I said, obviously we wish we could be talking actual hockey, some actual highlights. Right, right now this would have been prime playoff time. We could be recapping games and who got swept in the first round this year by
they haven't given up on the season yet. People, there's a good chance it still happens. We'll see what's going to go on here. They're saying that they want ideas. They're spitballing ideas. They're looking for a couple places there with this disease gets kind of under control. They're talking about putting a bunch of teams in certain areas and just playing a whole bunch of games. We'll see what's going to go on, though.
Yeah.
Who knows? At this point, it's all theory.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to switch over quickly. We're just going to touch on this just quick, but we're going to go over to the gridiron. We're going to talk about the NFL draft again. Just kind of touch on it. We obviously highlighted the first round in the last episode. If you didn't catch that, go back and check it. We obviously have lots of good things to talk about. We're just going to go over, kind of talk about a couple of things, some players or some teams that we think did pretty good. But we're also going to talk about the quarterbacks because the NFL is a quarterback-driven league, right? You can have all these other great things on your team, but chances are if you don't have a good quarterback, you're probably not going to be a great team. So there was 13 quarterbacks taken in total in the NFL draft. And in the first round, you had 4. You had Joe Burrow out of LSU. You had Tua going to the Dolphins at 5. You had Justin Herbert out of Oregon. He went number 6 to the Chargers. You had Jordan Love out of Utah State going to the Packers to kind of sit back. So obviously, I think Joe Burrow obviously gets, today they go and released Andy Dalton to save all that cap space. Obviously, Joe Burrow is going to play, if injuries don't come into consideration, he's going to play in all 16 games. That's, I think, their plan for the year. Get him starting in there right from day one. But how many games do you think Tua and Justin Herbert? I can't see Jordan Love playing unless Aaron Rodgers kind of gets banged up, which maybe he does. Maybe he plays in Week 17 if they've already clinched a playoff spot, right? Save Aaron if they can't move up or down in the playoff race. But how many games do you think Tua and Justin Herbert play?
I'm not sure. For Tua's sake, I'm hoping he doesn't play until it wouldn't hurt him to sit the whole year, but I'm hoping he doesn't play till Week 10. Now, if that happens or not, you know what Magic's like, Eric. God, he can give you 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 amazing games.
I was gonna say you're gonna get 3 or 4 weeks.
A big run, and then it comes back down to reality. He just starts throwing the INTs. For people that don't know what that is, that's interceptions, just like a madman. He's a battler. I love him. I love his beard. He's a good leader. All the guys love playing for him or playing with him, but you just don't know what the guy. He takes crazy licks too. He's a tough bugger. But with Tua, maybe if he can get to Week 10, that'd be great. I think there's. Well, yeah, I kind of like to see him not play at all, but you took him first in the first round. It's only a matter of time before they start yelling for him there in Miami, which I don't blame them, but you know how it is, Eric. Sometimes it's better to sit a year and actually know the goddamn system and have a chance, right? The team will be that much better the next year. But I think they're going to be. They had a pretty good draft. There's a lot of guys that need some polish, need a little work, but they've got a bunch of really good players, so they're going to contribute. So I like their draft. Good job, Miami.
It'd be nice if Tua got to kind of sit. I don't think he'll sit the whole year as much as
I don't think so
good,
either, right?
Because I think it'd be good for him because he'd get to fully heal, right? Like how many times does an athlete get the chance to fully heal from an injury? And I don't think that injury ever kind of fully heals. I think you kind of got to maintain it and everything else, but kind of limit what can kind of go wrong with that. And yeah, like I said, I kind of assume, he probably gets to Week 5.
Yeah, I think that'll be lucky too, right? Like in a perfect scenario, he doesn't play at all. And then you're saying Week 5, who knows? I'm hoping Week 10 if he's going to play, because there's a good chance I think he's going to play this year. It's just the way it is. And then I agree with you on Burrow. He's going to start day one. So, and he's got weapons there, and they did a lot, and they cut Andy Dalton now. So they got that 17.7 freed up, so they can, add some depth there. I like that. And then what else? Oh, yeah, we're talking about Herbert. Like I said, perfect scenario, he doesn't play at all this year. They like Tyrod Taylor. They're saying all the right things, but if they start fucking losing, didn't mean to, pardon my French, but if they start losing,
it's the core Meyer in you. It's the core Meyer in you. It's okay.
For sure, bro. But I'm just saying, it's the same old thing. They'll start crying for him, and the Chargers are talking about they need to face the franchise. But if this guy can sit this year and knows the system in and out, and he's comfortable, when he comes in next year, he could be that stud. He could, or better than that. You know what I mean? He'd be better off. But I'll say maybe the last 5 weeks of the season he plays, because I'll say the Chargers are not doing well or something like that.
I think, and I know Anthony Lynn loves Tyrod Taylor. He's talked to huge, big about him.
He had him in Buffalo. They were in Buffalo together.
They were together in Buffalo. That's the system. Philip Rivers never fit the system that they wanted to run over there with the Chargers with him. They want to run the ball. They want to run pistols. And that's not – Philip Rivers is here to chuck the ball around the yard. He's not here to, play patty.
They want to roll up. They want to roll
hand off the ball
too and all that.
And that's just not – if you haven't, though, go check out Philip Rivers' highlights. There's a YouTube clip for all of his highlights for all of his running over the years. It is amazing.
Just as good as Tom Brady's.
Slower than molasses, but he's so pumped up. There was one from last year, and he gets out there to throw a block on a guy. And he's like, "Man, see that? I blew up number 32 out there." He's get that southern. It's awesome. But I think he makes it to. I think, to be honest, I think Herbert's starting by week 6 or 7.
Same thing as Tua, basically.
I just feel like it's just one of those things. As much as Lynn loves Tyrod Taylor, I feel like either Tyrod gets hurt or Tyrod just becomes,
Shit's the
not saying that
bed.
Tyrod's not a good, he led Buffalo to playoffs. So,
And
obviously
Buffalo didn't have the receivers you guys have.
no,
so.
and they had a good defense and everything else. There's lots of good stuff, but I just feel like for some reason I feel like Tyrod just maybe the pressure's too much, and maybe if he just has an off week or they're not winning, you get the pressure. You're in a new building, this brand new multi-billion-dollar building, with these amazing jerseys. By the way, Chargers had the best jerseys in football. I don't want to hear anything else from you. Those new jerseys are so good. I love them so much. But yeah, I just think Herbert, I think he gets in there. I think it's too early. I would love for him to sit a year. Put Tyrod Taylor in there, put Easton Stick in there, put anybody else in there, but I think Herbert's going to get the thing by week 6. And Jordan Love, the pick that everybody kind of thought at the end of the day, why in the hell did the Green Bay Packers grab Jordan Love at number 26, trade up for him even? Nobody knows. But I don't see that guy seeing the field for the next. If Aaron Rodgers is there, he's not. Aaron Rodgers is signed for another 3 or 4 years, other than injuries, which Aaron Rodgers has had injuries over the years. I think that's the only way that Jordan Love gets in. I don't think he plays more than a handful.
He's got to get hurt. But there's a team I was not happy with their draft at all. Like, the only thing I was happy about with them is they grabbed a couple of offensive linemen to help Aaron Rodgers that way. But how in the hell, when there's a crazy field of receivers here in this draft, and they don't even take one. Like, this doesn't even make sense. And they've got one really good receiver, and they got a couple subpar guys. Like what in the hell? Just take one of them.
And this is supposed to be one of the deepest. This is supposed to be one of the deepest drafts you've come along.
You gotta think, and they took a good running back though, but it's just like you kind of shake your fucking head a little bit. You're like, what are you doing here, Green Bay?
The running back thing's odd too, though, right? Because you have your bell cow there.
They've got 2 good backs.
You got Williams and you got
Jones,
and then you go and grab Aaron Dillon, who I think the kid's great. And to be honest, he's one of my favorite running backs in the draft because he's that old school thumping back. Like he's really good. But what's he gonna do? Is he gonna get carries over Williams or Jones? Why? Like you grabbed in your first 2 rounds.
He's third on the depth chart, exactly like you said. Third on the depth chart.
So your teams know better after this draft for the Green Bay Packers. Another head scratcher, which a lot of people didn't understand, and some people think this was early, but in the second round, there's only 1 quarterback taken, and in the second and third round, there's only 1 quarterback taken. And that was by the Philadelphia Eagles, 21st pick in the second round. They grab Jalen Hurts, the quarterback out of Oklahoma. So Jalen Hurts obviously played for Alabama before Tua came in.
Won a national title.
Won the national title. The next year Jalen Hurts goes and sits back on the bench the entire next year as Tua's out there chucking the ball around, looking like a
slinging her around, boy, just looking like a beauty.
And then Jalen Hurts, transfers this year over to Oklahoma. Some people have him kind of projected for this and that, blah blah. But and obviously Carson Wentz, another guy. He's had injury issues. Didn't, and he was going to be the MVP that year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Before he got injured, he was going to be the MVP of that year.
He was so dynamite. He was electric that year, yeah.
And but obviously he got hurt, so Nick Foles had to come in, and he's missed a couple of games here and there. And they said, look, we want to have a good quarterback, we want to have a good backup. That's kind of Doug Peterson's way. But it's just kind of a head scratcher. Like, there's all these guys, and you're gonna take in the second round.
They must have liked them that much.
Maybe get a lineman. Maybe grab another lineman to try to keep your quarterback upright, rather than grabbing another a backup for him in the second. Like, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Only a couple years out from them taking Wentz, second overall. So that was odd. Did you have any points about it? What do you think about it?
Well, like you said, it's a head scratcher, but being a New England fan, like I've already brought up, we had Jimmy G, we had Mallet, we drafted. I think both those guys were second round guys. Jimmy G, I think was anyways. No, yeah, and then we had somebody else. We had Brissett there, so like I get it. Like you always want to have kind of develop somebody there, and I think like you said, their coach kind of hangs his hat on it. He takes pride of it. Like another one I think that comes to mind right off the bat is Andy Reid. He's pretty good at it. So kudos. But like you said, it was. I think it was early too in the second, if I believe.
No, it was the 21st pick in the second.
Okay, so but anyways, like yeah, it is a little bit of a head scratcher. I know they went and grabbed a couple receivers. They got one in the first, and they got one a little later on too. But like you said, why not just take somebody to keep your quarterback upright, like an offensive lineman, or even help out your D? Just add to that. But anyways, it's whatever. They don't have Nick Foles there anymore, so why not start to figure something out with somebody else? But for people that think he's like Hill for
Taysom Hill,
the New Orleans Saints, he's not. He's not. Maybe he runs the odd gimmick play or like takes off running and stuff, but he's not lining up at tight end and all that shit. No, not a chance.
I think he's obviously a project, but with Doug Peterson with those offenses, right? They've made a lot of these quarterbacks look really good. So a guy that was the offensive coordinator for that Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles. Who did the Eagles beat in that Super Bowl, Trevor?
My team, unfortunately.
Okay, there you go. Sorry.
We still got 6 rings.
Look, I understand you got all the championships. I got to take any shot I can, and I'm pretty sure anybody that listens to this and hates the New England Patriots as much as I do.
That is a 0, ladies and gentlemen.
We have we have an AFL championship. That's a true story. I have a ball right there. Tells me the year.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. The Indianapolis Colts and Frank Reich, they obviously brought in former LA Charger Phillip Rivers to take over the starting job for that team this year. They got Jacoby Brissett as the backup, but they said, look, we don't have enough. We don't think the ceiling's high enough for Brissett. Must be what they're thinking, I'm guessing. So they go and grab another quarterback who kind of a lot of people had him as the, 4th, 5th, 6th. Like they kind of had them all kind of looped in together. In the 4th round, 16th pick in the 4th round, they grab Jacob Eason out of Washington. This guy has a ton of upside. He can, chuck the ball around.
Great arm. He's got a rocket, like Eric just said.
Had a lot of, had some issues, just like a lot of these guys, right? But, some people kind of thought that he actually has a better arm than Jordan Love, which, take that for whatever you want. But, they grab him 3 rounds later, grab him the 4th. You're not giving up a big bunch of draft capital to grab this guy. He kind of just falls to you and say, look, he's still there. Phillip Rivers is only on a 1-year contract. Maybe we sign him for a second if we come close type of thing this year, if we think we can compete. But yeah, they grabbed Jacob Eason, who, they think they can probably do something with. And to be honest with Frank Reich in that offense, you probably can. Like I said, a lot of these quarterbacks and a lot of these teams, it comes down to what team they're going to, right? Like, the Shanahan offense makes all these quarterbacks look good, right? Shanahan's out there making Jimmy G look good. All these quarterbacks that you go over the years, all of them that have had big seasons, RG3, go down through the list, Matt Ryan, everybody, they've all had big years, and Kyle Shanahan's been at the head of it, right? Same as Frank Reich, same as Doug Peterson, same as Andy Reid. Like, people don't forget, or people forget that, yes, Patrick Mahomes is electric. That guy is amazing. But Alex Smith, the year before, put up monster numbers and started chucking the ball around the field. And anyone that's ever played for Andy Reid has put up big numbers. So a lot of these guys, it just depends on where they get drafted to, right? If Freddie Kitchens is your head coach, calling the plays, calling a draw play on 4th and 14,
it's not good.
Probably not the best guy for you.
You suck, Kitchens. I'm sorry.
Freddie Kitchens is terrible.
You're a joke.
He's not good.
I'm done.
Hey, Freddie, listening to this. We know you're listening to this. You're one of our, handful of listeners.
But
Suck.
I'm glad. I'm going to chime in here. I'm glad you picked the Colts because so they traded the first round pick for DeForest Buckner. Am I getting this right, Eric?
Yep.
I know I
Yep.
am. All right, so you got Buckner, starter. You're going to plug him in right away for your defense, first round pick. Great. At 13, you know what he is? He's great. Then they go with the second round, get Michael Pittman Jr., USC receiver. He's tall as hell. He's got to be at least 6'3". I'm not going to look it up right now, but I love it. I think he's going to be a really good pro. And I'm trying to think. They have Ty there, and he needs help there, and he's been nicked up. This is a great pickup for them. Awesome pick, and I also want to go. They come back in the second round. They trade up and they go grab Jonathan Taylor, the Wisconsin running back, which I absolutely love. So you get two studs, and they didn't need a running back because they got good runners there. But you add this guy to the mix. Your offense with Phillip Rivers. This just helps Phillip Rivers more. I love it. Like I really like this.
Well, you can run Marlon Mack,
and they
you
got
can run
Eason, like Eric said, and he's going to learn from a really good quarterback. Like just watching Phillip Rivers' work ethic, just like Tom Brady, just like all the veteran quarterbacks who've been successful in the league. Yeah, Phillip Rivers hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he's done a lot of things, man. He's won a lot of big games. He's won a lot of playoff games.
He played on a torn ACL.
Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl either. Like that's just Jim Kelly never won either, and he was in 4.
No.
So
it's
shit
a team
happens.
game.
It's exactly like maybe your kicker goes out and misses a kick.
Hey,
I feel bad for you.
We intercepted the ball. We intercepted the ball.
I really like their draft, like you said, Eric.
Well, you look at it like Phil Rivers goes and we play against New England in the playoffs. We intercept that ball. Our guys, the defender should have just went down, and instead, he starts going and you guys strip the ball from him and get the ball back. Right here, we think the game's over, and we give the ball right back. So there's just like little things like that. It's a team
never
game.
over till it's over, homie.
Not till the fat lady sings.
Is it? Do you? So somebody else that sticks out to you too, Eric? Somebody else's draft you want to talk about?
So, the Cleveland Browns, they had, to me, I really like their draft. They go out, they say, look, what do we need? For, what's our most immediate need that we can get something for? And they say, look, once again, we're going to go and we're going to build around Baker Mayfield. We took this guy first overall 2 years ago. He played really good his rookie season. He fell off last year under Freddie Kitchens, but we're going to grab the best offensive lineman we can. And the best lineman that they got was 10th overall. They took Jedrick Wills, which is the second lineman off the board at that point. Out of Alabama.
I really like that pick too.
Like I said, we highlighted it. We talked about it in the last podcast too. The guy is just so good. Obviously he played right in Alabama. I think he's going to just switch over to left. I think you leave, Jack Conklin on the right. You build up that offensive line and you give Baker Mayfield and that whole, that running game, everything, right? Build the play action. That's where Baker was the best. Then they go in the second round. They grab the safety out of LSU, Grant Delpit.
Great.
The guy had all – he was all – yeah, and before the season started, people had him, mocked last year as like a top 10, top 15 pick. And obviously he didn't have the best season. And he, I think some people say he misses some tackles and stuff. But they get this safety who, essentially could be better, one of the better safeties they've had in a long time there. They get him the second. They take Jordan Elliott, a defensive lineman out of Missouri.
Really good too.
A lot of guys had him as right there with Derek Brown and Kinlaw and all these other guys. If they get him in the third, that's, amazing. They get a linebacker, Jacob Phillips out of LSU, so they went another LSU guy.
He's a freak athlete too.
Yeah, they get Harrison Bryant, a tight end in the fourth. They grab Nick Harris, a center out of Washington in the fifth. And then they grab Donovan People-Jones out of Michigan, another receiver. And this guy is a special teamer. I was on the day 3 of the draft. Yes, I watched day 3 of the draft. I was watching, I was watching another podcast. It's a Chargers podcast essentially, but they had a YouTube live thing going, and they're saying like, "Hey, well, like, who do you if we can get somebody in the 5th, if we get somebody in the 6th, like, where do you see us going?" And Donovan People-Jones' name kept on coming up. I think he's apparently really good in a lot of phases, and to get that guy in the 6th,
I think it was an outright steal. Like, I think he's a prime example is that his numbers suffered because of the quarterback play in Michigan was so up and down. You know, yes. I'd like to give what's his name the benefit of the doubt. I think it's Peters. I can't remember.
Peterson.
I'm tired. Yeah, Peterson. I'm tired, people. But he kind of suffered from, Peterson's just inconsistent. Period. So he's a receiver. He needs somebody to throw him the ball. So it kind of suffered from that. I couldn't believe he was still there in the 6th round. That's an outright steal. Like, if you look at the draft, everybody Eric mentioned, like, great value. Like, a lot of these guys should contribute to their team right away.
And that's the thing. So I think they're a big team. There's a couple other teams that, Dallas Cowboys obviously had a good draft.
Didn't even have to do, like, there's another team that guys just fell to them.
It's them, and then you have the typical teams. You have, like, the Baltimores, and
I was about to say Saints. Baltimore, yeah.
Like, these teams that just sit back.
Oh, man, there's another one. The Saints. Man, 2 of those guys are supposed to go in the 1st round or mentioned to be first rounders. And they got them, got one of them in the 3rd round. Like that's like that linebacker out of Wisconsin, Zach Burner? Bond, yeah. Oh, man. I would love to have him in New England, but I'm happy with who we got.
I'm pretty sure that guy, he's the linebacker that at one point punched his backup quarterback in the face.
Something happened there, yeah, I believe.
I think so. I can't remember if it was him or there was there's another guy too. So just finish up on the quarterback. So in the 4th round, 3 picks after the Colts take Jacob Eason. Another kind of little head scratcher. Because the New York Jets, it's not like they don't have enough holes to fill at this point in time. They go and grab James Morgan, quarterback out of Florida International. This guy is another guy that apparently has a huge arm, but his stats in college were, like, terrible. A lot of guys I was watching were kind of just like, James Morgan, okay, yeah, well, here's what we can here's what we can talk about him. Here's the things we can say. There's not a whole lot good to say about him. His final year, he only put up 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 2,500 yards, like, nothing crazy. Then a guy at one point, which is a big, possibly the smartest quarterback in this draft, probably also the weakest arm in the draft, goes and is drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 5th round, 22nd overall. It's Jake Fromm out of Georgia. And, it's kind of – I've seen some people say, like, it's good. He can really go in there and teach Jake Allen some stuff, which is kind of funny because, like, he's obviously the smarter quarterback, doesn't have the arm strength, and now he's going to be backing up possibly the quarterback with the biggest arm in all of football. So the people were kind of joking, like, oh, good thing they brought in another quarterback to mentor a rookie to mentor their starting quarterback type of thing and teach him how to play. Because he is good. He's smart. I think he tested the highest on the Wonderlic test, which, take that for whatever you want. Put up, good seasons over in Georgia, won some, big games and everything else with them. And
can I chime in there for a second?
Yeah. I know you like Fromm.
Oh, I don't like, yeah, because I watch the Bulldogs lots. I like watching Georgia people, if you don't know. There's certain teams I rotate through or try to watch them as much as possible. That's one of them. I honestly think Buffalo picks Fromm right there because New England he's gonna drop to New England there, and I think New England was gonna take him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just had a feeling right there. Like, I think Buffalo's like 3 picks away from New England or 2 at that point. And I think, they come out and said Buffalo that, he was the best player on their board and they couldn't believe he's still there. Sure, like I couldn't believe that, but a part of me believes they just took him because I think they feel like New England takes him right there afterwards and they didn't want to deal with it. So
and they need a backup quarterback,
a theory.
Right?
Don't people like that's just my theory. Like, don't quote me on like New England was going to or whatever. But I just had a feeling they were going to take him there, and then Buffalo took him right before he could drop there. So Whatever.
And
Good for
then
Buffalo.
I'm sure Bill Belichick was just licking his lips like, oh yeah, just let him fall to me. Let him fall to me, guys. I'm praying.
Competition. He doesn't have the greatest arm, but like you said, IQ, and you know how Bill likes to smart football players.
Yeah.
So, can you play ball?
And like I said, a lot of people kind of came out and said, Georgia, obviously, you look, like I said, the ball didn't look good coming out of Fromm's hands for whatever reason. Just doesn't look like he has the arm strength. But people also kind of cite that, look,
timing. He's a timing guy.
He didn't have any receivers this year, so he kind of had that against him.
He lost the ball.
In the 6th round, the Jacksonville Jaguars come out and they grabbed, another quarterback. So they grabbed a quarterback last year in the 6th round in Gardner Minshew, who is now the quarterback over in Jacksonville for
QB number one, Haas.
QB number one with the great facial hair and the jorts and everything else. The guy's got style for days. They grab Jake Luton out of Oregon State. Don't really know much about him, but they even made a thing on their social media like, quarterback in the 6th round, eh? Let's see how this works out, because they kind of just know, like, they kind of locked out with it last year. Then in the 7th, we had 4 quarterbacks to kind of finish off the draft. The Titans grabbed Cole McDonald out of Hawaii. Kid put up some decent numbers in Hawaii. Kind of just your typical, good quarterback. Maybe it's one of those things where, if Tannehill doesn't work out, or if he gets injured, or maybe they're just building for the future, right? If he's a project and you have Tannehill, I think they got him for 4 years, 3 or 4 years. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, maybe this guy is the guy that, steps in for him when he's done, right? Maybe they kind of groom this guy over the next couple of years. He put up 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 14 interceptions for Hawaii this last year. So, that's some big numbers. The year before, he put up 3,800 yards, almost 3,900 yards, 36 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So, big numbers all the way around. So, could be this, one of the steals of the draft. Could be nothing, but, put up good numbers for Hawaii. Cowboys then take Ben Daniku. Don't really know much about him. He's out of James Madison. Just throw a guy. I think they just kind of took a quarterback, just take a quarterback. They have a lot of big contracts over there. You got Amari Cooper. You got, you're going to have Dak's big contract coming up here soon with 35, 40 million, whatever he.
Franchise tagged him this year.
Yeah, franchise tagged him for now and see what he gets. Zeke Elliott, Taylor Smith, the left tackle. You got all these guys that are playing over there. You get some big money guys. So instead of paying a backup quarterback $4-5 million, something like that, just go grab a guy in the 7th. Pay the rookie salary, no signing bonus.
Another project too, so you can't get another Tony Romo or another Dak.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Dak was a late round pick. His was because of some kind of a little bit of off the field issues, I think, but that is what it is. Then the Saints kind of take, which is kind of odd, because 2 days later they signed Jameis Winston, but they took Tommy Stevens out of Mississippi State, who was essentially the same guy they just gave $20 million to in Taysom Hill. So they essentially drafted Taysom Hill's counterpart, which is kind of odd. I guess maybe if you think, look, if Taysom Hill gets hurt, we kind of still want to run some of these plays. But it's kind of going to be weird that you're going to run Taysom Hill, Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, and now Tommy Stevens, all at the same, all on the same.
Well, Tommy might end up on the, what do you call that, the practice squad and stuff. You never know. Sean Payton's always got a plan, so I trust him, just like Big Bill.
And maybe he plays, some, because I know he obviously had Taysom Hill playing special teams, everything else. Maybe he kind of sees an athlete in Tommy that they can kind of do the same with him. It is what it is, right? Like it's
exactly.
It's if you can have this guy, put up some decent numbers for you, and help you on special teams and everything else. But just for anybody wondering, as a senior with Mississippi State, played with Penn State for 4 years before this, he put up a grand total of 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The most passing yards he ever threw for in his career was right there. So that is something. And then the last pick, not the last pick of the round, but the last quarterback taken, the Vikings take Nate Stanley out of Iowa. Nate actually was a pretty good, prospect coming out. Some people really liked him. He put up some decent numbers for the what's Iowa? Is it Jayhawks? So they are. They're some kind of Hawks. But he put up 2,900 yards, 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for a team that didn't throw a whole lot. I think they actually kind of ran like a two quarterback system there for a bit. I can't.
I'm not surprised.
But so Vikings, same thing. They got a quarterback that's making a ton of money in Kirk Cousins. Grab a guy in the 7th, put him on the bench, and see what you get. Right?
Sit there,
it's
learn.
One of those things. I think a lot of people say, like, look at the Colts. The Colts had some terrible backups over the years, right? They had Curtis Painter. They had all these really terrible.
The year they lost Peyton Manning, it was a tire fire. Like, it was just horrible.
But it was one of those things. They didn't put a bunch of money into it because they said, like, look, Peyton Manning is the only person that can run this offense, and no backup quarterback we're going to get is going to be able to do what we need him to do. So we're just going to grab Curtis Painter and
hope for the best.
And the best was really bad, by the way. Did they win one game or no games?
Not even a little bit good. Not even.
That's how they got Andrew Luck, though, right? So I guess they can't even complain. But no, I said just talked. Wanted to kind of I said everyone always wants to know about the quarterbacks, so we thought we'd kind of fill everybody in. Football, it's they kind of seem to think they're going to kind of go on with everything as normal. They're doing their practices and stuff. They're doing like off-season workouts digitally. It is what it is.
The OTAs are not going to happen or whatever. They're set back. We'll see how that goes. But and people don't realize, but the OTAs are very important, especially for rookies. But that's where they start going over the playbook. They start doing some things that you start working on chemistry. We're talking about quarterback, receivers, running backs, offensive line, all this shit. Getting used to the guys' voices. It's very important, especially on the offensive side. So, let's say football, ends up happening right on time, the regular season and stuff, hopefully. One can hope. But you could see some sluggish offenses. You could see some defensive battles. But you know what? I'd rather watch that than not watch anything at all. I think, Eric, you feel the same way. So,
you and me both.
So, and like if NHL and the NBA do come back, man, we're going to be so excited. And there's going to be a lot of sports this year because everything's just going to be on top of on top of one another. It's going to be great. But here's hoping, keep doing your part, people. Do what the health people tell you to do. They're smart and they're in their position for a reason. And us little people, we just do what we're told. That's right. We just do what we're told.
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's part of it, right? You look at all this stuff and there's so much to it. And I said we all want sports, right? Like, this it's supposed to be the NFL, the NHL playoffs. This is supposed to be the NBA playoffs. This is supposed to be the start of baseball, right? Baseball's supposed to be going.
The most exciting time of year, man.
It's awesome. You get the NFL draft, get all these amazing things kind of going on, and we got none of it, right? We got the NFL draft, and that was like kind of the cool thing out of everything that we actually kind of got a new sport event going on. But we're just going to sit back. I know we said obviously the CFL draft's going on right now. Couple local guys, I think, and Maritimers that were supposed to potentially be going in this draft, which is kind of cool. Don't see that a whole lot, but it's with a lot of that, they're looking. I think I seen something earlier. They're talking about looking from the Canadian government to see if they can get some kind of help because they're obviously they're not making a ton of money in the CFL. If anybody knows, they're making some money, but teams like Toronto really struggle because they're in a big market. But a lot of people don't really care about the Argos. They care about the Raptors. That kind of has been like the new wave of people. They care about the Leafs. But the CFL,
the Blue Jays,
the Blue Jays. I don't know if they look at the CFL like it's maybe in Toronto like it's below them. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's not the NFL. We only deal with big teams here. We only deal with big leagues here. Where we get the only Canadian basketball team, only Canadian baseball team.
It's too bad too because I think if the CFL was doing really great in Toronto, I think they would bring an NFL team in. But a big part, I think, them not having an NFL team is because they know that until I think the aggro is out, so
and
the NFL doesn't want to do that.
It's a hard thing, right? It's they say, well, we tried to bring some NFL games. They bring the Bills down once a year for a couple of years in a row, and they said like, well, look, it wasn't working out. We couldn't get the big numbers. Well, guess what? If you're not, it's so hard to go root. The Bills were terrible back then, so that doesn't help.
Fact.
You're not playing, you're not, and I think they're playing like random teams too. You're not playing like a big team like New England, or you're not playing a big team like the Packers or Steelers or anything. You're playing like Arizona or something like that, right? Like I can't remember exactly who it was, so people don't get on my ass here, but it's hard to get up for a team that's not yours, right? We saw it here in Moncton, with the CFL, even, they're talking about, for all these years, they're possibly going to bring a team to Moncton, and we didn't see it. It kind of became a thing through a lot of stuff, right? Bad stadium placement, bad stadium construction, all this stuff. But then they saw a big number, I think, the first year, and even like maybe the second year, and then it started dropping off. Well, yeah, if you start saying that we don't think we're going to get a team here, and you just keep on bringing in random teams every year, like it's hard to get up and get excited for those teams because they're not your team. How many of these teams, you'll put Green Bay in California for a game against another random team, what's the chance of them having a big sold out stadium? Probably not the best, right? It's just little stuff like that,
depends.
Right?
Exactly.
It's just, like I said, even like a big team like that, and the CFL is not as big, right? So, now they're talking about Halifax. So like we went to the CFL game in Moncton last year. It was a good time.
We did.
I've been to every one of them.
And that was actually a really good game with two shitty teams.
At the time, it was
Toronto's best game, and I'm a Toronto fan. Argonaut, I'm not bashing them, but they were just not good enough this year. They're just Pinball. Shout out to Pinball Clemens. I've met him, and he's taken over as GM. Give him a year or two, people. He might even surprise you with the. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but who knows? I think he'll bring in the right pieces.
Yeah, like I said, it's always hard when you see these teams, and like I said, maybe one day Toronto gets a franchise. Like I said, everyone thought for a long time it'd be Buffalo. I think with this Bills Mafia thing, I think that kind of put that back 15 years, if they ever even thought about it, right? Like I don't think it's even a chance that it happens.
I'd love Buffalo to stay where they're at. If Toronto's going to get an NFL team, I want them to get a new franchise, and you know how that works. You know what I mean, Eric? And then
you gotta wait and see if they
shout out to Vancouver. Vancouver, get a basketball team again, please. Maybe consider getting a baseball team. That'd be sick, like on the West Coast. But what do I know?
Basketball, you might be able to see it. They're the same as the NHL, where they only have 30 teams, or I guess the NHL's even more now. NHL has 31, going to be 32 with Seattle. But yeah, you could maybe see a basketball. I think basketball's had a hard time. I think it'd do really well in there. Obviously, they lost. Seattle's just begging. Yeah, Seattle's begging for another team since they lost to Supersonics.
Sonics.
I think you'd see. The Grizzlies, I think you could have a big market there. You bring in some big players, and I think, it's a bigger city than a lot of people want to think. But, you have some of these teams playing in Minnesota and, Milwaukee and all these random places around
and they make it work
for the NBA. They make it work, but, if you put them in a bigger city, does it work? Maybe, right? It's.
I honestly think it's only a matter of time before Seattle gets another NBA team, but
yeah. I think the thing with them is they were saying forever they want
there's a rink, I think, an arena
for the NBA to go there. Yeah, but they want an NBA first arena built, which was the big thing. And I don't know if it's a lot of money for these arenas, right? Like we have a brand new arena here in Moncton. We have the Avenir Center. It's only 2 years old. It's a lot of money, and that's not even it's nice. Don't get me wrong, but it's not It's probably one of the nicer junior rinks around, hands down. But it's
brand new, like you said, so it's nice.
Yeah, still not NHL caliber when it comes to size and everything else. And that was a big money in Moncton, New Brunswick. Can just imagine what that real estate would cost in Seattle or Vancouver or any of these other places, right? So Yeah, like I said, we're going to get into over the next couple weeks. Talk some more. We're kind of going to be done with the draft, but we'll talk some more hockey, whether it's doing stuff like this where we kind of went over a draft, whether it's highlighting a team, all that stuff. Just talk about team, like players and this and that, highlights. I said lots of potential. We can always we got basketball.
State of franchises like we did before. State of franchises. So like we talked.
Yeah,
about
like we've already done
Boston.
We did Toronto. We did Montreal. Lots of other teams. Maybe we stick with the Canadian teams for now. Maybe we move on to like the Flyers or Rangers. We got lots of stuff to talk about. So
we can do division by division. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, like I said, if you haven't yet, give us a like, subscribe, leave a comment. Give us, if you want to rate us on anywhere you can rate us, 5 stars, like on Apple Podcasts, all that other stuff. Like I said, we really appreciate it. Like I said, we're just going to keep on bringing out more content as much as we can. Like I said, tough sledding right now with no sports. Trying to be a new sports podcast with no sports is a little hard. But we're trying to find a way to do it. So
me and Eric are great grinders. We get in there, we get in the corners. We're like the dirty spots on the ice. You know what it is.
Oh yeah, know what?
We're getting her done, and we're helping you guys. We're helping ourselves. We're having fun, and we hope you guys are too. And give us a like. Rate us. Come on.
We're just a couple boys that just like talking sports, right? So we can talk about hockey, football, basketball, baseball. Like I said, one day I'll even get Trevor talking about lacrosse. You guys wait. That'll probably be in like 2024.
I coached lacrosse. I couldn't get cross-checked. I couldn't take it. I'd just lose my shit. Just couldn't handle it. That's why I didn't play. The coach tried to get me to play. I couldn't play. I just couldn't do it. Okay, I just lose it.
Trevor, you're going to protect the ball, Trevor. You're going to cradle it, and this guy's going to come over and he's going to cross-check you constantly in the forearm.
I just can't do it. I just lose my shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know.
We actually coached the only coaching I've ever done, and I'd like to get into coaching. I was actually looking at possibly coaching lacrosse this year before all this stuff happened and everything else. But I coached 1 year of house league hockey. Essentially, I played my last year. It was going to be my brother's. My brother was playing still. I was going to be driving him. We played on the same team the year before. 2 of the guys that played they were on, their dads didn't want to coach anymore. One went and played provincial and everything else. Anyways, there's coaching opportunities. So one of the dads like, Eric, you're driving Kyle here every day anyways. Do you want to coach? And I said, sure, let's coach. So nice. I coached, and along with Cody Bowman, who was on a couple episodes again, Cody and me both coached. We even went in for team pitcher day, house league team, both of us full suits on, looking the part, being professional.
Just killing it.
Just looking awesome. Younger buck, not so much the beard that I've kind of just let grow out. I've let the hair and the beard just like.
Dude, you were trying to catch me, man. Like, it's unreal. My hair is way ahead of yours. But
the hair is
I'll give your beard a slight edge because I cut mine off a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to say you got a little more growth in the beard than I. Oh, yeah, for sure you do. And yeah, I'm catching you. My beard grows not good. Anyways, quick.
No.
The only coaching I did, Aaron, you're going to
I dropped one earlier, and I just dropped the other one. Anyways, but no, it's a little younger whippersnapper, less of a beard, more of a chin strap because that was the thing back in the day.
Chin strap. How embarrassing. Embarrassing. The only coaching I did, ladies and gentlemen, is I coached 2 soccer girls teams. 1 year we went 13-2. We won the whole league. That was my first year coaching.
It was all coaching.
Carrie Morrissey. And it's true what they say about soccer moms. That's all I'm going to say. And the second year, we were like 13-2. Well, the second year, we were like 2-13. It was a grind. It was a grind, and we had just a couple of the girls we had the year before were back for us, and man, like, could not buy enough popsicles to get the girls through the season. We tried everything. We improved 110%. We got a lot better. Those girls were beauties, but
first
it was
year
a struggle.
First year is because of the coaching. Second year
much success.
was because of something else. We just didn't have the team dynamic. First year was all coaching, though. That's why they got 13-2. That's awesome.
We changed strategies. We tried everything. We just didn't have. It just didn't happen for us. We didn't come together. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, like I said, we like sports. Like Trevor and I both played. I played hockey, played a little bit of football. Played, younger. I played a little bit of baseball. Went to basketball camps, stupid stuff like that. We just, like I said, sports has always been a thing for us. It's kind of what Trevor and I ended up bonding over when we first, we knew Cody, obviously, and we were just like,
sports.
You like football? Yep. You like hockey? Yep. Did we just become best friends? Yep. So
we still hang out. Jeez,
next thing you know, we're doing karate in the garage, right? So
if I lived around here too, like, and if I was here 24/7, we'd definitely get into coaching a house league team. Like, I believe in giving back to the community, and I remember those guys who coached me when I was younger, and I played pretty much in house my whole entire career, but it was awesome. I played with a bunch of boys, like we all kind of just stayed in it. So we kind of grew up together.
Those days, though, right? You'll never forget.
It was great. It was great hockey for the most part, and I was fortunate to be on a lot of good teams. And I just remember those fathers that gave their time and kind of helped shape young men. We were young boys at the time, grew up into young men. So I'm thankful for them, and I just eventually like to give back. So. In that regard, so
and that's the thing, right? And I always thought about it too, right?
Fun.
Like it's they're having a hard. You always hear that all these leagues and stuff. That's one of the things they have. The two things they have a hard time getting is parents and stuff to step up and coach, and also people to step up and be referees, right? That's the two main things that are the hardest in this day and age when it comes to sports. So it is what it is. It's like I said, it's always nice to give back. Like I said, I thought about really. Even with my job, it's kind of hard because I don't work just 8 to 5. I obviously, where I sell houses, I'm showing a lot of houses at night. But I kind of said, like, look, if it's a possibility, I'd like to coach lacrosse this year, kind of give back. I know they have a lot of hard time getting coaches in there, and it obviously didn't work out with all this other stuff. But I said, just giving it back. Like I said,
there's always next year, bro.
There's always next year, and like I said, I jumped on with like the board for lacrosse for the Cody External lacrosse around here. I tried to just do whatever I can, right? I help with them with the social media, making random posts and trying to get people out there and involvement. I just want to see this stuff grow, right? Even I was going to sponsor before it all came crashing down because of COVID. Thank you, COVID. I was going to sponsor, I live out in Irishtown, just outside of Moncton, and I was going to sponsor the year-end barbecue for the they have like kids baseball and soccer and stuff. They have it a couple times during the week. I was going to sponsor that and everything else too, and try to just help out. Right? It's a community event. It's these community centers and stuff. They're the ones that are trying to raise money and try to get stuff together for a barbecue that ends up costing a couple $100 that they got to try to find the money from somewheres. If I have the couple extra bucks, I'd rather help out if I can. Right? I played out here. I want to just give back. That's a lot of it.
Give back.
Right? When you get to the point in your life when you can give back, it means the world to kind of do that.
Put a smile on a kid's face. It's really priceless.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but I know it's kind of cliche, but it's so true.
I was trying to put a smile on a soccer mom's face. So
my goodness, but it's on that fact. Like God bless them. Like they're. Anyway, it's just great.
Yeah,
I even had a father come up to me. He's like, "You love it, don't you?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, the flow." Like he takes his hat off. He's bald. Like I just got the flow going. I got my hair like this. The curls are just going. Oh my God. He's like, "Man, no wonder the women are mothers like you. Like, look at you. You're an animal."
Yeah. I think this is the longest I've had my hair in like.
Me too. But the curls are all. I got all tamed down. Kind of slouched over to one side. The wings
girls for the girls.
In.
There you go.
Man, look at the beard. Like I've just gone salt and pepper. I just embraced it. Look at me. I'm a beauty.
See, this isn't a very high definition camera, so you can't see the grays. But they're there. Trust me.
It literally looks like I just took the paintbrush with the white, just went boop right there. You see that spot there? Boop, 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 boop. Anyways, yeah, and then a little boop, boop right there. You see that? A little boop over there. It is what it is, people.
So people,
how
this is kind
about those Maple Leafs? Grr.
Yeah.
See, you getting closer. Yeah. See, oh, it's not good. I shouldn't have got in this close. See, no.
This is the bullshit that usually happens after the podcast, people, but instead you guys get it right now.
You get a little bit more personality here in this episode with me and Eric, just going off, just giving it.
It's part of it, right? We can't always be super serious when it comes to all this stuff. Like I said,
God no, gotta have some personality. Gotta add some pizzazz to the show. You know what I'm saying?
Personality is one thing we have. So, anyways, on that we will.
Sign out.
Like I said, if you haven't yet, go on Facebook, go on Instagram, like us on both, follow us on both. Like I said, really appreciate it. Engage with it, right? Like the posts, send comments. Even if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a like. Like I said, we really appreciate it. I'm gonna start saying this at the start of these too.
Compliment our beards, like it's important. Like, look at this growth. God, I love my beard.
I'm just
give us a like, people. Come on.
Hey, we have some pretty loyal listeners. I'm just I said we're getting good chunk of listens every episode and stuff, so it's good. Like I said, we appreciate anybody. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, like I said, we want to hear them. We had one guy kind of tell me that I was cutting off Trevor too much. I'm trying to hold off on that. I try not to. It's easier when
I try not to either.
It's easier when you're in person, but when you're online, it's a lot harder because you think that they're like ready to finish up their thing.
Delay too, right?
There's a little bit of delay, and then he kind of kicks it off for a second little wind in the talking, and I'm like, shit. I just tried to cut him off again.
It's the timing's so hard too, like you said, like when you're not, even sometimes when you're in person, because it sounds like the guy's done with his point and you want to chime in because you got something on the top of your head.
He's out of breath.
All of a sudden, bam!
Trevor's like, oh sweet, Eric's finally out of breath. I can
He's
finally
get
a word in. So anyways, thank you guys all for listening, and this for Eric and for Trevor. This is us signing out. Have a good one, guys.
We off?